Welcome to the NWR Aussie Resources Conference. Next up, we have James Chirnside. He's the Managing Director of Dart Mining. The ASX code is DTM. Now, Dart Mining, they're a multi-commodity explorer there in Northeast Victoria. Take it away, James. Tell us what you're up to and what the latest news is.
Hi, Kerry. Thanks very much, and welcome everybody to the webinar. Very useful forum, I think, for getting messages out and for people to get a fairly quick understanding of various companies like ourselves. I'm coming to you today. There's a forward-looking statement, which you've no doubt seen plenty of today already. A quick corporate profile, but before I actually go to that, I'll tell you that we're at the AusIMM Battery and Energy Metals Conference in Perth, and I'm actually at the Optus football ground, which is a very impressive stadium. Anyway, back to the corporate profile. I think a lot of people will understand that Dart's been around for quite a long time. We had a very recent, i.e. last week, placement of 20 million shares at 10 cents, raising $2 million. You'll see there's a lot of options there on issue, but in fact, a lot of those are expiring. I think around 28 million are expiring at the end of this month. At 10 cents, we're around a $15.5 million market cap, which I would argue is still extremely cheap versus peers, and particularly when you understand our prospectivity. There's myself and Carl Swenson and Richard Udavenya are the three board members. Julie Edwards is our company secretary. Our head of exploration is Dr. Ben Hines, who is a PhD in geochemistry, which is very useful on lithium exploration. And I think the rest of you can take in the rest of that as you said. So just a regional geological setting. We're on the Lachlan Fold Belt, which has some fantastic mines over the years. Not to forget the Cadia Ridgeway, or the Newcrest Cadia mine, which is Australia's biggest producing gold mine at around 1 to 1.2 million ounces per annum at extremely low grades, less than a gram a tonne, and they still make enormous money. But anyway, look, we're on that geological area, so we're at the southern side of that, and the map that you can see gives you Victoria, New South Wales, and then the map on the top left there gives you a better idea of our footprint. Our footprint, going to the footprint quickly, there's a slightly enlarged map that shows you where our activities are occurring at the moment. We have been involved and focused on Northeast Victoria since the company's formation back in 2003 and subsequent listing in 2007. We've got a large tenement package, around 6,000 square kilometres, and that has increased and it's shrunk over the years. At the moment, we feel like we've got a very optimal selection of ground in the northeast of Victoria based on our historic knowledge, and I'll get to individual projects on that a bit earlier on. We pursue, Kerry introduced us as being a multi-commodity company, and we really are. And unfortunately, a lot of people, particularly in the market, try to sort of slot us into one place or another. But the fact is that we have 9 historic orogenic gold fields. We have more than 1,000 lithium, cesium, tantalum, pegmatite dikes in a very large dike swarm down the Middle Valley. And we've so far identified at surface through outcrop 8, both copper gold, moly copper, silver and zinc porphyries. So we are difficult for people to focus in on in terms of specific activities, but we have a whole range of different commodities, from tin, gold, silver, copper, lithium, tantalum, etc. That is a picture there on this next slide about what we call our exploration project pipeline. Probably needs updating slightly, but it is a pretty good representation of what we're working with. So you can see in the top bunch of regions, that is Mitta, Buckland and Rushworth. We've got orogenic gold projects there, which we are systematically working through, proving up and getting greater understanding of. Below that are our what we call strategic or battery and energy metal type things, elements, both in Mitta and Corryong, and they are the main projects within them. And our DORCHAP lithium project, we have the Glen Wills lithium project, and also the old Walworth tin mine, which is also very prospective for lithium. Below that, we have our porphyries located in Corryong at Mitta on the Empress Porphyry and at Buckland. Some people with long memories may remember DART for its porphyry discovery at Corryong, that is the Mount Unicorn Molly Copper porphyry. More recently, we spent a lot of time working down at Mitta on the Empress Porphyry, which is a copper gold play, and we have some prospective porphyry, what we call shipping, down in the Buckland Valley. Recently, some of you may know, we struck a joint venture, earn-in joint venture agreement with SQM, who are going to fund our lithium exploration over the next 6 years. It's highly likely that we will, and that is to the tune of about $12 million. That is highly likely to be accelerated in terms of progress, and part of my reason for being over here in Perth at the moment, away from home, is to sit down with SQM and go through our various approaches on the picking up on the further lithium exploration. SQM, as most of you know, is a very big company. It's listed on the New York Stock Exchange. It's actually the biggest lithium company in the world. They produce around about 20% of all the lithium produced globally. So we're very pleased to be in that earn-in agreement, and the deal from our company's perspective essentially means it's quite transformational. It means that we can consistently put both financial and personnel resources into accelerating our knowledge of the DORCHAP lithium project. So key terms of the agreement, I won't spend too much time on it, but it's an earn-in where after the expenditure of $3 million, which is what we call phase one, they will earn around 30%, earn-in of further 21% at further $3 million, and then a total of $6 million, earning an additional 19%, totaling 70% after a spend of $12 million. After that point, that 70% earning, each party is responsible for its own proportional expenditures. And obviously at that point, if we look like we've got a project for development, the economics of that should drive our ability to successfully match dollar for dollar beyond 70%. What we are looking to do on the DORCHAP lithium project is further mapping and sampling. We've got a lot of additional outcrop targets that we need to ground truth, i.e. test, rock chip, trenching, etc. They were throwing up these additional 300 odd outcrops, were thrown up from a LiDAR program, that survey that we ran last year, and that was quite educational for us. It threw up a lot more outcrops than we had anticipated it would. But I'll get a little bit more into the details of each of these projects further into the presentation today. Just a quick summary, more deep ground penetrating radar geophysics. We have some drill ready targets, which are what we call low impact. They're low impact to the extent that we don't have to remove vegetation, and the permitting is much quicker. And we've got literally dozens of walk-up targets that we will begin drilling at the end of probably, well, as quickly as we can, but I'd say realistically we won't be drilling these targets until sometime in towards the end of October, early November. We'd hope to have a rig in the field drilling some of these targets. Most likely to be diamond drilling, so we can get good interpretation of dip and mineralogy, as opposed to RC, which is quicker. It's usually a bit cheaper on that basis, but you don't get anywhere near the same amount of information that we really need to understand upfront on these targets. Pretty much the same sort of approach for the Glen Wills area, and essentially the Lithium DORCHAP project is split between the Esdale pegmatites and Glen Wills. They're just geographically slightly separated by about 60 odd k's down Australia's most windy road. So that's that. So to the DORCHAP lithium project, I've begun to describe that. We discovered lithium there in 2016. 2018, there wasn't a great deal of enthusiasm for lithium. People may remember that the price took a bit of a dive. It subsequently recovered. There was additional interest in it. Early COVID times, March 2021, the lithium carbonate, LCE, lithium carbonate equivalent price dropped around $5,000 a tonne US, is now trading roughly 60 odd thousand a tonne. So we've seen a fantastic recovery in that, and therefore a lot more interest across the board. And everyone watching today would be aware of that. We've had some very good hits in the past from channel sampling, from rock chips, some drilling, but we've got an awful lot more work to do before we get a perspective on the chances of developing this project into a mine. So moving quickly, just conscious of time, onto our Granite Flat copper gold project, which we're currently drilling, have been drilling there consistently with our in-house diamond drill rig. A lot of people have been asking me about when we're going to be releasing results on the drill program that we conducted there earlier on this year. Unfortunately, there has been enormous delays in turning around some of the assays. What we would hope is within the next 2-3 weeks, without fail, we should be able to assemble all the assay results and put them into some kind of release. And I do apologise to those who I know are frustrated by the time delay, but honestly, no one is more frustrated than us at not being able to put these results out. On the Granite Flat project, those who are new to it, we did a RAB program in 2020. I guess the best hits that we had there, highlights, 19 metres at 9.39 gold, including 3 metres at 41 grams per tonne from 28 metres, and very good copper hits too, 19 metres at 0.61. So look, this project on its own is a company maker. It's a very, very good project. It's highly complex deposit. Complexity in deposits is often a really good thing. It tends to offer up, surprises. And I don't think we've been disappointed at any stage of our progress on exploring this particular target. This slide deals with some geophysics. We ran 16 kilometres of geophys lines last year, identified throughout 9 really quite hot-looking targets. It's the 3 holes that we put into them earlier on this year that we're waiting for results on, and as I say, hopefully sooner rather than later. BUCKLAND Gold Project, moving along, is an extremely prospective orogenic gold project right down the end of the BUCKLAND Valley. It is a historical gold working area. In fact, it's part of the Chiltern sort of gold corridor, where over time, historically, there's been about 7 million ounces produced, and a lot of gold produced there actually would not have been reported. It was back in the day where reporting of gold production and things was not exactly systematic, shall we say. But we've had some brilliant results down there. Interesting, we see the prize in this project as being the disseminated gold, which is sort of spreading out from these high-grade pods, which happen to be lining up extremely consistently along a 17.5-kilometre strike. We've done a lot of soil surveying or geochemical surveying down there. Around 7,500 surface samples have been grabbed, and to the south, the project actually still remains open. So it's a great project, again, a company maker in its own right. Porphyries, we've got 8 identified outcropping porphyries, Stacey's, Gentilani, Granite Flat, which we're drilling at the moment, Mount Morgan, Copper Quarry, Empress South, and Unicorn and Shippens Gully. They're all essentially precious and base metal dominant porphyries. Unicorn, for example, is a molybdenum dominated porphyry, whereas we're seeing Empress, or Granite Flat, as it's more commonly referred to, as being a gold dominated with very good copper hits.
Running out of time there, James.
Okay, so there's our schedule of works, and actually, luckily, we're on our last slide. That gives people an idea of the sort of work we've got set up over the next 18 months. And we have this half of, first half of 2022, we hit all of our targets in terms of scheduling there. Thanks very much, Kerry, and thanks very much to everyone for looking in today.
Thanks, James. A very comprehensive presentation there. And there's the summary. Leave that up for a moment. If you've got questions for James, pop it into the Q&A and I will make sure that he gets those questions. We'll get those answered. We've only got a few minutes. James, what struck me was when you spoke about gaining SQM as a partner in your Granite Flat exploration. Bit of a coup there. What sort of engagement have they had to date? And how much due diligence did they do? Because I know that they've done a couple of deals in Australia, but not a lot.
Yeah, look, they're very selective. They're joint venture partners with Wesfarmers in building a big refinery down at Kwinana right now. Yep. They operate in joint venture with Wesfarmers, the big Mount Holland lithium project over here in Western Australia. We had been talking to SQM for a long time, a couple of years. We started talking more seriously late last year. That was combined with a field visit and more legal due diligence, etc., which culminated in the deal that we executed in July. And as I said earlier, part of the reason why I'm over here is to meet with them and discuss our approaches. And we've formed a technical advisory committee, which is made up of 2 of their senior lithium geologists and technicians, and myself and our head of exploration, Ben Hines. So we're getting on the page. We've kind of looked at the sort of sensible approach. I think an interesting point for us from our Dart mining perspective is that, you know, I think SQM, like a lot of other big players in the lithium business, want to aggressively explore and build out their own pipelines. So that's, you know, music to our ears. It's extremely well funded. They're very good people to work with. We're very focused on our ESG responsibilities as well as part of that, working with a world-class company like SQM. Naturally, they're very sensitive to that, but Dart's always been very strong on ESG anyway. And really, we're just reviewing what we've done. But look, it's a great deal. As I mentioned earlier, it's transformational. It's not the normal kind of mining major versus junior deal. We'd call it actually very generous, but they'd call it much more collaborative. And obviously, we welcome it very much.
Just briefly, if we can, I guess adding value for shareholders. There was a lot in the presentation. You've got a lot of projects. What struck me was Granite Flat. I was like, oh, look at that. Good results that you're getting out of Granite Flat. Is that going to take, now that SQM have come in, you can almost sort of put a ring around that, if you like, getting married. But Granite Flat seems to be quite interesting as well. Is that where a lot of time and energy focus will be going forward?
Look, we had anticipated a joint venture arrangement of some description, whether it was on Granite Flat itself or whether it was on the DORCHAP Lithium project. That is our business model, is to joint venture projects.
Okay.
And to that extent, we really spent a lot of time preparing for such an eventuality. So what it means is that we've got our own in-house rig, we've got our own in-house drillers and offsiders, etc. Our in-house rig will continue to drill on Dart's projects. The main reason for that is that we're using a NQ2 diameter drill rig, whereas actually on the lithium and on the pegmatites, I want a slightly bigger diameter sample of core. So we will continue to push both our regional exploration activities and reconnaissance work along. We have human resources enough to be able to do that. We've got human resources enough to push Dart's own drilling program, and that is 10 days on, 4 days off, all year round.
Wow.
And then we have enough resources, and we have geared up a bit with geologists and field hands and things, and we will be able to accelerate at the satisfaction of our joint venture partner the work on the lithium. So the answer is we'll be doing work on both aspects of Dart's footprint, i.e. the joint venture plus our own work. We can do it, we're resourced enough to do that, and we're very confident that we can maintain it.
We've run out of time, James. Lots of really good information there. Good luck with the SQM and over there in Perth. Don't play too much football. We will see you soon. Thanks so much for joining us at the NWR Aussie Resources Conference.
Thanks, Kerry. Thanks, everyone.